Who are some of your favorite artists?
I love Dope Lemon. I saw him before Lollapalooza and then at Lollapalooza. I like Yellow Days and I like Black Pumas. I'm seeing Gary Clark Jr. next month.
Yeah. I remember when he first dropped.
He's great. Me too. We are changing with the times. We realized the app was really important. We hired a new girl. She's 22 years old, and so she is our. She came on board last year to manage our social media because I always have this thing, you need old blood, new blood, and young blood in a company.
Okay, you're offering something really nice. Look, those publications are great. Why the hell would I want to invest a certain amount of money into that if I'm not guaranteed? Because that's the thing. What is this going to guarantee me? What's going on, everybody? Walter Hooper of Marketing Minds Meet. We're here at the Not Co-working Space in Grosse Pointe Park, Michigan, where we record the majority of our shows here in Grosse Pointe Park. I am sitting here today with an individual that I had the pleasure and chance to connect with many a time in the last year and a half or so. And we met through the Grosse Pointe Chamber of Commerce. And this is an individual that now I've actually had the chance to connect even more with in the East Point Roseville Chamber of Commerce. So East Side for life, right? So they live in the community, and they are an individual that just, I don't know, just has a good vibes. I said it. So with that being said, I am sitting here today with Rebecca Reyes of the Little Blue Book in Grosse Pointe Woods. How are you today, Rebecca?
I'm very good, thanks, Walter.
So why don't you first tell me about, in the audience, about you and how you got involved with the Little Blue Book.
Well, about 2 years ago, I think in April it'll be 2 years, I applied for the position with the Blue Book. The Blue Book is a directory in Grosse Pointe. It's delivered to every resident in all 5 Grosse Pointes. We hope always to get it out in January. Sometimes it's at end of January. It also reaches into the Indian Village community and East English Village. So those are areas in Detroit that are really close to the Grosse Pointes. All those communities interact. My contractors live in one area, do work in the other area, so it's really like I'm very connected on the east side because I'm pretty much working with everybody who has a business on the east side.
Nice. And when did you get started with the Little Blue Book?
Well, like 2 years ago in April, but it's been in business for 75 years. And not all communities would support something like this, but the Grosse Pointes do. They are unique. We're kind of a traditional community, and so they like a resource that's actually still in print, and I think that people find it interesting and they'll say, is print dead? I will tell you it is not dead. Today, even when I answered the phone, I was at the office. We have a Monday morning meeting. Every morning, just recap, talk about what's going on for the week. And, I took a couple phone calls, and people are still calling. Has the Blue Book been out? Are you guys still doing it this year? People wouldn't believe that, but every day we get phone calls with people saying, oh, I didn't get mine. And so that's why I know that we're still in business, and we will be in business because it's still demand.
Okay, yeah. And like I said, I noticed too, especially here in, I call it the bubble, the points. It's, there is still room very much for the realm of print. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you got to look at, again, since in marketing, you got to look at who your demographic is and who your target audience is. And a lot of those individuals are, generations that are maybe, late Gen X going into the baby boomer realm. So they're used to seeing and having that physical, tangible item in their hand a lot of the time. So how did you? Were you always in the print? I'll call it print journalism, print marketing realm when you were in your schooling years or what have you?
Well, actually, my degree is in political science from Michigan, so I really know it's a completely new industry. I have been in sales for a long time, but I have not been in advertising. So I'm still learning, but I like the product. I believe in it. And I also, am active in this community, so I know a lot of people. It's made the job a lot easier because I already have the connections. So that it's a good fit. I am still learning things all the time about marketing. As this is your expertise. I'm just a salesperson. I could sell anything I liked. And I do like this publication because it works with the community, and I love staying connected and.
How would you say the Little Blue Book is? What makes it stand apart from other print publications that kind of do what it does? What makes it stand out from others?
The thing I say about it, and after you were there too, when we met the president of the Better Business Bureau of Michigan, and she is, and I said to her, the Grosse Pointe Blue Book is kind of like the Better Business Bureau of the Grosse Pointes, because people, if they find a resource in the Blue Book, they trust it. They know, they believe that this person has been doing business in this area, and I can trust them. They've worked for my neighbors. I know that they're legitimate. It's not just finding some random person online. People in Grosse Pointe want to work with somebody that's been working in the Grosse Pointes, and that is just it's like a vetted. They feel like they're vetted if they're in our book, which is kind of true, because they won't, they will not continue to advertise or be able to afford that expense if they're not doing a good business. So we do believe that most of the people in our book are really good resources for our community, and if we didn't think they were, we might forget them.
Yeah, you can't do that.
We might forget their listing.
And I also see too, you have other publications too. Now, are these are subgenres, sub-tiers of the Blue Book? Well, I know one of them is the Shores Magazine.
Yeah,
can you tell me about that one?
That's our baby, and I mean baby because it's been out for about 2 years. It's the same length of time I've been working for the Towar Productions. So we have two companies, Towar Productions, and then we have the Little Blue Book. The Little Blue Book is the Grosse Pointe Blue Book, delivered all 5 Grosse Pointes. Then there's the St. Clair Shores Little Blue Book that comes out in June, and that goes to all of St. Clair Shores. Those are mostly contractors. But the St. Clair Shores community, that, as you know, that is, there's only one lifestyle magazine, and that is the Shores Magazine. And we are now, we've reached our point in the beginning. We were definitely taking a loss for the first year because we were publishing the magazine, but people weren't familiar with it. Now we're at the point that the community wants it, expects it, and our advertisers are reaching out to us to advertise because there's no other lifestyle magazine like it in St. Clair Shores. And we really see the demographic in St. Clair Shores. It is changing. It's getting to be a little bit younger, a little bit cooler. We see the businesses in St. Clair Shores changing to fit that demographic because people that can't afford Detroit right now, young 20-year-olds, 30 people in their 30s, if they cannot afford the Detroit market, they are moving 15 to 20 minutes outside of Detroit, and that is St. Clair Shores. It's off 94. It's generally a 15-minute drive downtown. So we see that demographic changing. We think it's going to continue to change. I grew up in Royal Oak, and in the 90s, and I've seen Royal Oak change a lot in the last 20-something years, and that's what I think is going to happen in St. Clair Shores. So this magazine we're proud of because the people in the community really love it. I love getting to know. Do you know that we have a Nobel Peace Prize winner that lives in St. Clair Shores? I mean, these are the things that I learned through the magazine. We do the Notable Neighbor. That's one article that I always look forward to. I like to see who's living in St. Clair Shores, what they're doing, and what their life work has been about. And it's really amazing. And we learn so much about the people in that community through the magazine.
Yeah, I know one of your issues that you released, it was celebrating the women of St. Clair Shores.
Yeah.
And it is International Women's Month this month. There was a couple of names in there that I recognize because they're also part of my Kiwanis Club.
Right.
And I'm gonna throw them out there because I gotta show the love. First one was Roseanne Minnie. and she does the Harper Charity Car Cruise that goes from Old 8 Mile all the way up to 12 and Harper. And she's, the committee chair for that. So she's been like a pioneer and just a force to be reckoned with when it comes to planning that. Then you had Adria Calhoun, who I think she's doing a campaign for next year to try and be on city council for St. Clair Shores. And then you had Linda Burgess, who's also a current city council member for the city of St. Clair Shores. So it's cool. I like that you spotlight people that are your neighbor, and I like the fact that that's kind of like the vibe, as the kids say, of that magazine and that publication. Now, for those that maybe aren't as, privy to print, are these available online as digital formats as well? Right,
yeah. Well, that's the one thing with the Shores magazine. Our Facebook page has really grown. The last issue, the February-March issue, was reshared 23,000 times on Facebook. So it's really pretty much reaching everybody in St. Clair Shores. So we tell people, yes, you're advertising in print, and if you don't believe in print, that's okay, because we got you covered. We have the Shores magazine, the Facebook page. So if you advertise with us there, we're going to repost you over the course of those 2 months 2 to 4 times, and we tag your company, and then we get reshared. And we were really proud of that reach with the last publication. We feel like we've made it, and we feel like this magazine isn't going anywhere, and we are solidly entrenched in the community, and we're proud of it, because it was really, like, for everyone, it was new, and we had to really push it. I had to sell it. People didn't know what I was talking about. They had never seen it. That's really hard when nobody knows you're selling something that they've never seen, don't want, and to sell something like that is actually truly challenging. It's not like selling our magazine. So now we've reached that point where people know what we're talking about. They are eager. We're reaching out to us to advertise. So we're good.
Yeah. So to go off of that too. So that third publication you have there, what is that?
Well, okay, so as a publishing company, we also do other publications, and I'm really proud of this one because I have two connections to this. The Junior League of Detroit does for the last 50 years. Every other year, they'll take a house in either one of the Grosse Pointes or Indian Village, typically, and they will, designers from all over the state will submit applications to get a room in that house. They then have license to do whatever they want in their room. And people over the course of a 2-week period will walk through the home, and they will, I think the ticket price this year is $35. And you get a lot of really good design ideas. This year the house is at Lakeland and Jefferson. It's 9,000 square foot English Tudor. And the house is open in May for 2 weeks for people to view. But we are putting together the Designer Show House event book. And so we're publishing this. We work with the designers, and then we publish their article, and we're selling ads in this publication. This is a great way to reach anybody. If you are a roofer, if you're a designer, advertising in this publication is a good idea because it's a coffee table book. People don't generally throw this away. They keep it, on their coffee table. And so that's a great publication and a good cause. So the Junior League of Detroit, all the proceeds go to benefit women and children in the city of Detroit. So you are doing something good for your company and for women and children in Detroit when you advertise with us.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah,
so.
It's their biggest fundraiser, and they're saying the Junior League is saying this is their last and final year because it's a big endeavor. It requires a lot of volunteer hours. So this is the last one, but you have to see it. It's definitely worth a visit. Okay,
well, definitely keep that in mind. So segue into here now. The great old debate, and I know we were kind of talking a little bit about this before we hit record here. We live in an era now where, print it's becoming more and more obsolete. And now that you have, You have my generation, the millennials, you have the Gen Zers coming up, and then you're going to have Gen Alpha here probably in the next 15 years. So it's the generation after Gen Z. Yes, they are called Gen Alpha. That are raised with these in their hands almost from birth, it seems like these days. Is there talks, has there been conversations had in the newsroom where you're having to think about how to cater to those demographics in the next 10 to 15 years, because that's where everything's headed. I mean, we see it now in the realm of digital marketing, where people are engaging more and more with video. They're engaging more with digital posts. So is the Little Blue Book Tower, Productions, are they having this conversation? Is this something that's been a lengthy discussion and dialogue that you've had with everybody in that office?
Absolutely, because the Little Blue Book is out. This is the 75th, almost 76th year that they've been in business, and so, as a younger person in the company, my boss, she came. She's been. Her dad purchased the company in the 80s. She's been working for the company since the 80s. She's in her early 70s. I won't say how old, and so, anyways, I have really pushed, and I keep talking about that topic because we're all aware, and so we are changing with the times. We realized the app was really important. We hired a new girl, Brooke Lady. She's 22 years old, and so she is she came on board last year to manage our social media, because I always have this thing: you need old blood, new blood, and young blood in a company. You need young people in a company. You need new blood. And then you need the old blood for the people that maintain some of the standards and remember the traditions. And so our company has changed in the last 2 years and introduced those elements. We now have a girl who's really young, and so she has that eye that we don't, and I don't, it's not my business, that's not my element area, but that's her area, and so that's why our social media is doing better, is because we've made that change, and we're going to continue to have to make those adaptations, going forward to stay in business. We know that.
And see, what's it's so interesting, because you brought up a point of having young blood, newer generation, older generation mixed in the workplace. Sometimes I would think that sometimes that could be somewhat of a detriment, because you have like a clashing of these thinking and ideologies, and so having to come up with a common ground, having to come up with almost like a compromise. I mean, have you ever seen that happen, like in the office environment?
Yeah, sure. We do have to sometimes, sell it. We have to sell I'm always pushing for more social media posts, of our advertisers, because I feel like, because so many of our advertisers are saying what you're saying, print's dead. We don't do. There are companies that say we don't do print anymore. So then I say, okay, well, we have to then do social media, and we have to push that, because that's what our advertisers believe in. But I believe repetition is really important with marketing. People have to see it in print, they have to see it on social media, but seeing a company more than once, you have to see that many times a month to come first to mind. I mean, I do it with my husband too. We'll say, where should we go to dinner tonight? And then we go to our favorite places, and we go to, there's a new place on the radar, but sometimes we'll forget about a place. And every time you drive by, you're like, shoot, we were talking about where to go to dinner the other night, and we always forget about this place. So that's why I tell people, yes, your people come to your company, your restaurant, but you do want to reach outside of that. And they're talking about this with Dragon's Meat closing. Okay, that was in our meeting this morning.
Sad.
It's so sad. We're all upset about it. We're like, we cannot believe Dragon's Meat is closing. And I said, that just goes to show, even if you
and that's the St. Sorry for interrupting. That's the St. Clair Shores location, not the OG Warren location. The St. Clair
Right.
Shores location, Dragon's Landing. Yeah, that just recently closed. God, yeah, but I'm sorry, continue.
And thinking about that, isn't that interesting? Because we were talking about the two locations today. And we're saying, how is the other location doing the better than the location in St. Clair Shores, right? Because the other location is kind of an odd location. It's off a freeway, right?
Yes, but that location they distribute.
Okay.
And they've been distributing for a while. And I think so as tragic as it is that we will no longer have Dragon's Landing, and their food was so good. As well as the beer, obviously. But I think they're not going to really be hurting because they still have their main location. They still distribute. And I remember, when many moons ago when I first, turned 21, like that was like one of the first breweries that I went to and somewhat frequented because back then, so I'm going to date myself, back then in 2010, 2011, Baffin didn't exist. J-Max didn't exist.
Right.
Someday Brewery here in Grosse Pointe didn't exist. So Copper Hop didn't exist. So there was a very limited selection at that time. And then as it grew in popularity, now, so get to tie it all together. Yeah, no, I know that was tragic.
Yeah, we're sad to lose them too. But we say, advertising would have been probably a good idea for them because not everyone would think about them. They wouldn't come forth to mind if you're not right off the Jefferson where they were. If you're at 12 Mile and Harper, you might not drive down Jefferson very often, right? So that's why we say advertising is important because you think everybody knows where you're at. Maybe not.
Yeah, not only that, but also to get into another point here, a point, because it's going to be about the points. I find that, since networking and kind of being here in the park now, and like people know what I do, but I don't know if you were around with the chamber at this point in time, but I think this was like maybe 2-3 years ago. Here, right in this room, myself and Richelli Wright put on a video. It was a video marketing seminar, and people enjoyed it. But I find with East Siders and Grosse Pointers in particular, here we go. You kind of have to like bash their head against metaphorically. You have to bash their head against the wall of the table like multiple times in order for it to click of like, oh, this is what the value is. And I think what we were talking about even earlier too, before we got on here, understanding I think what marketing and advertisers really can offer. Because I don't know if you noticed this, but I know at least in my industry, digital marketing has kind of had a weird shift. A lot of companies are either they're downsizing or they're cutting out a lot of their marketing efforts and they're really focusing on certain things. So, that's why, you had mentioned, well, do you do like the social media? There was a reason why I got out of it. And so here's where I'll get into it became just such a mind fuck of just constant everyday posting, constant everyday engagement. Like they say there's a science behind it, like the dopamine rush. It's like equivalent of like, taking a drug. It got to a point where I was like, I can't do this full time because I'm going to go fucking crazy and I'm going to lose my goddamn mind. So I got to do something different. Obviously still keep it, but, evolve it a bit, kind of morph it a little bit. So the only thing I do now with it, here you can call the action, I do the actual social ad campaigns. So I'll go in, so we were talking about too, like the metaphor of rock band versus the stage crew and production crew. So now I offer both. So I can offer you the nice looking material. I can offer you the nice looking content. But having the nice looking content is just as important, or having the back end content, having a good stage crew, having a good production crew, just like in a show or a concert. If you don't have a good crew with you that's manning your sound, that's manning your lights, all that, your show's going to look like shit. And I find a lot, especially with individuals and companies that just do video. The front end looks nice, but then what's going on in the back end? What are you doing to offer companies that you're going to see like an ROI? Because that's one of the biggest questions I get is what is this return of investment going to look like? Because if I'm going to spend, I'm just throwing it just a made up number. If I'm spending a few $1,000s for this campaign, then I better goddamn well see some form of ROI on this. And that can, for someone like me, that's like, okay, yeah, fine. Sure. Here's what I'll do for you. But then for other companies, they'll go, oh, yeah, sure, and then nothing. And then when they get approached about it, it's like they come in with their tail between their legs, or they try to like backpedal and be like, well, blah, blah, and it's just like, no. You gotta have, in order to survive in this industry, I think, and even like going into the print industry, like return on investment, like, okay, you're offering something really nice. Like those publications are great, and I've looked through them. I get them in my mail, but why the hell would I want to invest a certain amount of money into that if I'm not guaranteed? Because that's the thing. What is this going to guarantee me?
Yeah, it is a hard thing to measure. I know in print it's hard to measure. I tell people what we see. Okay, so we have some. We've been doing a lot of surveys, but the other thing we have seen is when people advertise with us. So we do 6 issues a year. We do 1 every other month, and what we see is if somebody advertises once, unless they're advertising for a specific event, we're going to do our Mother's Day flower sale, right? We don't find it's as effective as doing 3 times. We find with the first ad, people notice it. Oh yeah, I should check that bunk place out. Okay, and then the next issue is another reminder. It's probably by the 3rd time they see the advertisement that they're actually going to take action. So it is really hard to measure, because not only did they see it in my magazine, but then they were at lunch and a girlfriend brought it up, and then they're like, oh yeah, I have seen their ad. But then when they go to order the bundt cake, they say, oh, I was talking to some girlfriends at lunch, and they had bought a bundt cake from you and they loved it, so that's why I'm here today. But they might have also seen my ad, right? So it is a really hard thing in advertising to say what is your return, that is hard to measure, because I think the repetition is important, right? It's important to see it in print. It's important to see it come up on your news feed on Instagram and Facebook. It's important to see that a friend tells you about it at lunch. All those things are factors, but when you ask a person, how did you find out about us? They might just say, oh, I heard your commercial on the radio or whatever. But they probably also saw it in my magazine. They probably also had a conversation where somebody brought it up, but they're not going to give you that rundown, So the return on investment is a hard thing to measure with it. But I do know this from surveys in the Shores. We found over 35% of people had found a new business in the Shores magazine. I think that's impressive. I didn't think the number would be that high.
Yeah, that is actually kind of impressive.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also too, pricing and all that, even on like Facebook or Instagram, I'll use those as the major examples. Facebook and Instagram, you could create an ad campaign for as low as like $1 a day, $5 a day.
Right.
So it's like, I'm sure there's gotta have had to have been some conversations in the office about that too. Like, how do we as a company that's been around for 75 years now, how do we compete and how do we match up with those statistics, with those prices and those numbers, especially when you have local businesses that, are trying to, watch their spending. They're trying to make sure that, every dollar that they put into their company is going to have, again, some form of magic word of the day, return on investments, and, that's gotta be a challenge to have to navigate, right?
Yeah, it is. But it is like we find a lot of our guys, if it's a small family company, what we do see a lot is, and this is where you and I come in, is they don't, if they're managing the company and they're going on calls, they really don't have time for their social media. And that is something that they're letting fall through the cracks. And they could be busier. Now, there's those times that everybody's really busy and they're like, well, I'm so busy, I can't handle more business. But then that person sometimes is calling me in 6 months to run an ad because they go through a slow spot, right?
Yeah, we call that a dry spell.
Yeah, a dry spell. And then they're looking at spending their advertising dollars again. But I think social media management these days, everybody should have that, because that is a key element. We are good about reposting our customers online, but if you're not advertising with us, you should at least be having somebody manage your Facebook account. And we do see demographically in this area, Facebook is more used than Instagram. That's what we know about the gross points in St. Clair Shores from our surveys.
Well, I think also too, again, it's demographics. You look at who's on Facebook, like our parents, and even some of our grandparents are on there.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, once our parents get on, it's not as cool anymore,
Right, yeah.
But with Instagram now, it's the demographic is primarily millennials, maybe early Gen Zers, and then you got the talk, which is already going through a little bit of a shift already because they're threatening of being banned. But to your point though, social media is kind of a necessary evil. And, I know we were talking about this, earlier too. It's become there's so many options. I think the thing for a lot of businesses and companies is, where do I go? Where do I need to be on all of them? Do I need to be on everything? And that's where, companies like myself kind of have to navigate and kind of hold the hand and be like, okay, who are you targeting first and foremost? Like, who is your ideal client? And how comfortable are you with certain platforms? Because I've always said, like, even though it's a necessary evil, you should be able to have some fun with it. You know what I mean? Like it should be.
Yeah.
Because we do live in a very, very odd world, in a very weird time. And so it's like, to provide some sort of escape for the user and of course. Now, the key question is, how do I do that? Well, that's when, you set up consultations, what have you. But yeah, it has become a necessary evil because that's the way of the future, And speaking of the future, and just marketing in general, so, because it is Marketing Minds Meet. So where have you found, who has been the Little Blue Book, the Shores Magazine, who has been the key demographic, the target demographic that you found to have the most success with? And then followed up with which platforms, and I think you answered a little bit of this before, but I'd love to get some more insight. Which platform of social media have you seen the biggest successes with and the biggest challenges with?
Oh, good questions. Well, I think that our real challenge right now is in print. Like people, I do get pushback on print where people are like, is anybody looking at that? And I say I get where you're coming from, because I'm in sales, but I've not been in marketing my whole career. And so I would have thought the same thing. I would be thinking, is print dead, right? And it's not dead. That's what we've found, right? Like in the number of calls we get in our office, if people don't receive the Shores magazine, because we use delivery companies, sometimes they skip a block. I will get calls about that. Like people will be like, I got the Shores magazine, didn't it come out yet? I'm on what block? And I will then get a couple calls from that block, and I realize they must have skipped that block, right? So that's how I know print isn't dead. And I find another thing interesting is some things we do know, right? Like with the Shores magazines, for instance, if I'm working with a heating and cooling guy and I say to him, have you seen the Shores? He'll say no. I'll say, I don't even think I get that at my house. I'll say to him, ask your wife. And when he asks his wife, for sure she has seen it. So like what I do know is that women are still looking at it. It's still fitting that community. But I also think that something that people don't consider, and I wouldn't be aware of either if I weren't doing this, but there are people that are just they're anti-social media. For instance, my daughter Greta is 21 and she is not on Instagram. She's not on Facebook. She and other friends of hers are anti-social media.
What?
Yeah. And there's
what?
Yeah, there's a movement away from it, with a lot.
Good for them, honest.
Yeah,
good for them, honestly.
It's fascinating. they're saying, no. And so then I think that we might have a little bit of a turnaround, maybe with like publications, like magazines, again.
So yeah, and not only that, but are you familiar with the rock magazine Creem?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Oh, really?
I don't think so.
Okay. So Creem magazine was a rock magazine that was printed out in like the 70s and 80s, and it was based here in Detroit, and the founder and publisher was by the name of Lester Bangs. And so it was like a huge publication. Like if you were in Detroit, Metro Detroit, like you knew about this magazine, and it featured like the biggest of the big bands, rock bands, all that stuff. Well, then it kind of went away, and then just as I'd say the last like year and a half or so, maybe 2 years, it's kind of made a resurgence again. But here's the cool thing, and to your point about public, print and actual tangible publication, like kind of coming back full circle, almost kind of like the vinyl thing, but now it's becoming CDs. So when they did their first release of the magazine again, they had and I remember it was over at Ripe Records in here in the park. They had the first issues. You could get them for free, but it was a limited run, and so you could only get it for that small period of time. And then now, I mean, I had my copy, but it was cool because they kind of again marketed it as like, hey, we're back, and for a limited time only, we're gonna be offering the full, the print version. And it's a big magazine. I've
gotta check it out.
It's like double the size in size of what you have there, but it's like it covers, artists, that are local, even bigger artists too. Like, it's got photos, it's got interviews. I mean, it's good stuff. And I don't know, to me that kind of showed, hey, like, that shows that you're taking proper, like really taking proper care and paying attention to detail. And I don't know, it just, I appreciated that. Now, I think now, like, I think you still can get the print, but like, I mean, the subscription is insane, and going digital is a lot cheaper. But first, again, that's a different. You know what I mean? It's like that old age-old question: audiobook versus physical copy of a book. You'll still absorb the story, but how you absorb it are two very, very different things. You know what I mean?
Very cool. Yeah.
So, going into now further into the future for marketing, are you familiar with Web 3.0?
No, I feel like I've heard it, but you'll have to inform me.
Okay, well, here we go again. So Web 3 is where you're dealing with now virtual reality, augmented reality. I'm sure you've heard of the metaverse.
Yeah. Okay,
so the metaverse kind of kickstarted this to a full bigger movement, and that was started by Facebook and Lord Zuckerberg himself. Then, just as of recently of this year, Apple came out with the Vision Pro goggles. So now Apple has its own augmented virtual reality, whatever you want, Appleverse, whatever you want to call it. So now people are starting to really kind of absorb and take in, okay, this is something. So imagine a realm where you could have a Little Blue Book, Shores Magazine could have like its own location in this augmented virtual reality realm where people could go and, they could shoot. I mean, you could have like archived pieces there, digital archive pieces there, and they could absorb that all in the comfort of their home with these goggles or what have you.
So cool.
And it's accessible to not only just the U.S., but international, So my question to you and to your company is, have you given any thought or consideration to looking into what the world of Web3 could look like for the Little Blue Book Shores Magazine?
We have not. It has not come up. It is a step beyond us. We're still trying to get a hold of this, more better at like Facebook and Instagram management of our accounts. We are growing and changing, but we're still getting there. We are we've been run by somebody who's owned the company for many decades, and there's been the wheel is invented. We go through our process, and we have to make changes, but sometimes it takes a little convincing of the powers that be that we need to be thinking about those things and planning for them in the future, just to stay in business actually. But no, it has not come up.
Okay, well, just something to think about.
Yes, it is interesting.
So now, you're familiar with the Star Wars movies?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so there's the light and the dark, right? So we've been going into the light territory. Now it's time to go into the dark a little bit here. So there's going to be some questions that are thought-provoking and really kind of pose a little bit of a challenge. So here we go. So the first dark side question I have for you, Rebecca Reyes, is tell me something about what you do that you don't like and why.
Ooh. Well, Walter, I spend hours sending emails, and I'm a people person. That's why I like sales. I actually genuinely love sales. Where most, some people, it's emotionally and mentally exhausting. But I am a people person. I like to talk to people. That does not get old. The emails, hours and hours and days of emails that I send every week, is kind of mindless business, so it's not always the most stimulating or that, but it's like that, that's what we have to do because that's how everybody's communicating. I would spend a lot more time if I were making those phone calls all day. It's way better that I'm shooting an email and at their convenience somebody can get back to me right away. I mean, I have a lot of correspondence that goes into advertising because sometimes people tell us, oh, just come up with something, which our graphic department's happy to do, come up with an ad. But when you have no direction or they don't know what they want, and then they have a chance to look at what you've come up with, they might have a lot of changes from that point. So a lot of it's this back and forth emails, stuff like that I'm managing my 500 plus accounts. So, that's kind of taxing. But not, it's just boring. So I listen to podcasts while I do it,
Yeah. But again, it almost seems like there's like that balance of, is, interacting with people, networking, mm-hmm. and yet having to do some form of like paperwork.
Paperwork. That's what I do a lot of.
Okay. So paperwork, that's even though you're in the print industry.
Right.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So now the next dark side question I have for you, and it's this I guess you could be you're speaking and representing both entities here. So you're a music person, or
so much, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or how familiar are you with blues music?
Very. It's one of my top favorite genres.
Okay. Have you heard of an artist? Are you familiar with an artist by the name of Robert Johnson?
No. Mm-mm.
Really?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, he was a he was a Mississippi Delta blues player, so way back in the day, like Depression era. And he wrote a song called Crossroads, which I'm sure now you're familiar with. Now it got covered by Eric Clapton and Creem, and is like a staple in the blues rock community. So the premise of this song was, he met up with this individual, and the lore of Robert Johnson goes that when he first started, he wasn't really he was okay, but he wasn't what he was known for later in his career. So, and the lore goes is that he was coming back home one day, and he had his guitar in his case, and he happened to stumble upon this crossroads, and he met up cross paths with this individual, this stranger, and the stranger looked at him and said, "I'll tune your guitar for you if you like, and in fact, if I do that, you would become one of the greatest guitarists known to man." But it just comes with a little bit of a price. So he does it, and then Robert becomes this blues legend. He's an icon. And one night at the age of 27, so he was the first to enter the 27 club, he's at a juke joint bar, and he goes to get a drink, and his drink is mixed with something, and he keels over, and he passes right there. So the lore is that he made a deal with the devil, because even people that had seen him before, and even one of his guitar teachers at the time said, "I don't know how he became so immortal just like that overnight. You can't explain it." So my question to you, Rebecca, is if you were to have a chance encounter with the devil, and the devil were to say to you, "I can make you and the Little Blue Book and Shores magazine one of the biggest publications, not only just in Grosse Pointe and St. Clair Shores or Metro Detroit, but all over the world." You would have companies in the U.S., outside the U.S., again, worldwide. You'd be world famous. And you would have so many ad sales, you wouldn't know what to do with it. You'd be set for life. But I just have a price. Now, that price could be your mortality, could be at the expense of a loved one or friends, but you would have all the riches and the fame, and you wouldn't have to worry about a thing. Would you take that deal that the devil offered you?
Definitely no. Yeah, definitely no. I think that I'm not for sale, Walter. I really don't think I am. I don't want anything. I've, gone through, highs and lows, in life, and, I've had a beautiful life, a beautiful home, lots of money. I don't now. And, but I don't miss it. It isn't, I've been there, done that, you know what I mean? And if it happened in the future, I'd be glad, but it's not something that I need to be happy. No, the answer is no. I've thought about it because, what we do see with the music industry, and sometimes you're like, is there something sinister coming into play here in this person's career? It's kind of wild, some of these stories, like Taylor Swift becoming a billionaire, and you're just like, how did that happen overnight? Are they selling their soul? And I definitely would not do it.
Okay, well, you're one of many that has said no. So, and for the record, there is no wrong answer with that too. I have had someone once say that they would.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people would for the money. I think a lot of people will.
You really think so?
If it came down to it, yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
How come?
I think that people think it's going to make them happy. I think they think a lot of money would solve all their problems.
Yeah, you would think, but I was just listening to a podcast clip of someone named by the name of Tim Dillon. Stand-up comedian, does a lot of commentary and of our just how odd, I'll put it that way, our society is. And he was kind of talking about like how happiness is such a vague term. Happiness is it's kind of like equating it to hearing when you ask someone what they want to do, they say, well, I want to help people. And then when you ask them to clarify that, they're like, well, I don't know, I just like helping people. And then me being the person that I am, I would say something like, well, insurance agents help people. Toll booth workers help people. Like,
right.
Gotta. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Like, so it's just, so happiness, like, to be happy, like, what does that mean? And I guess that's the bigger question. Is it's become, I don't know, I feel like the word being happy is kind of been watered down, I feel like, over the years. And I think especially, again, with the rise of social media, it's hard to kind of decipher that these days. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's I guess happiness for me, you're right, because you're like, well, how do you define that? Well, for me, happiness is contentment, like just being content, like just being like, I wouldn't actually change too much about my life. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel. Like, everybody's healthy. And so what would I don't think of anything that I had changed dramatically. I'm like, I really like my house. I like my kids. I maybe want a dog, but other than that, I'm really happy, I eat good food. I have good friends. I go to great travel, so it doesn't really take actually that much to have a sense of contentment, which I equate to happiness,
Yeah, see, that's where we differ. To me, content and happy are two very different things. I think when I hear content, and it doesn't sound like this is in your case, but when I hear the word content, to me, content I almost equate with like settling. And to me, that is a very dangerous territory to get into, because I have seen people, friends of mine, settle. And my God, is it so sad and depressing to watch.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe not for you. Maybe not content. Maybe it's comfortable. Maybe or
Well, then maybe you need what you mean, and I think you're right. Is contentment. When I think of contentment, I think of peace and being kind of like even. But happiness is, I guess, maybe like having that, like having all your needs met, but maybe with something with passion, right? So what you're saying is, and I think I'm the same way, a life without passion is not happiness.
That could be. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of merit in that for sure. I like that though. Yeah. See, this is what we do. We think critically here on this show. So, all right. Well, we made it out of the dark. Congratulations.
Thank you, Walter. I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Oh my God, I love this. Oh, this is so much fun. Well, we are officially out of the dark. So congratulations, you did it. So now we're gonna go into, I call it the fun. Well, I think this has been fun. We're gonna go into now a much more fun portion where we just ask more lighthearted questions, and because of course I can't end on a dark note. That's just too depressing. So let's start with this live stream on our YouTube channel. So with that being said, we are going to be going live here, and we are on the Marketing Minds Meet live stream. And it is a kind of a gloomy day, kind of a chilly, almost feels winterish. Did the groundhog lie? Was spring not coming early? I don't know. Anyways, I have here with me today an individual that I had the utmost pleasure and thrill of connecting with over the last couple of years through the Grosse Pointe Chamber of Commerce, and now through the East Point Roseville Chamber of Commerce. and they are with the Little Blue Book, as well as the Shores Magazine publication, and their office is located right in Grosse Pointe Woods, right off of Mack Avenue, just before Cook Road. I have history there. We won't get into that today. Good history. And with me today is Rebecca Reyes. Hi, what's going on?
Not much. How are you, Walter?
So Rebecca and I have just completed the dark side portion of the show, and she did great. Learned a lot about her, so you can find that in the episode, in the full episode here, coming out here, probably in the next week or so. But I wanted to get into some light side questions today for you, and kind of just end things on a good, optimistic, positive note. So the first question I have for you is, when you are not doing your sales thing with the Little Blue Book and the Shores Magazine and just trying to just be the boss that you are, what are some of Rebecca's favorite hobbies and activities that you enjoy in your downtime?
Well, Walter, I think you know from social media that I spend a lot of time, I go to shows. That's my big thing, music, right? And so I do spend too much time and too much money doing that. I have to talk myself out of buying tickets to festivals. I have to say to myself, Rebecca, you already have 2 this summer. That's good. You don't need any more. So that's one of my greatest passions. And I've never been a dive bar girl. It's just not my scene. But coming back to the east side from Eastern Market,
go on.
I've been getting, my friends have been like, hey, you got to come check out this band here playing at the Cabbage Patch, or you got to come to Caju and see this, or First Place Lounge, which I had never been to in all my 20-something years in Grosse Pointe. I'd never gone to until rather recently. But what I love about this area is you can see some first-rate musicians, people that have toured with Bob Seger, you name it, and no cover, and walk into a bar in Grosse Pointe and see major talent. Like, that is something that I think is a well-kept secret in this area. If you were in Chicago or New York, you'd be paying $10, $20 for a cover to see some of these local bands playing at some of these great dive bars in our area. So that is one of my newest things, and a good little time passer.
Okay, so live music.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to check out my band at some point.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that till today.
Yeah, we talked about that before we hit
Yeah.
record. And dive bars. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a small list of some of my go-to places that I like to go to, and maybe there's a place that we could hit up after a chamber event or something that's close by. No, I love a good dive bar. It's just, there's nothing like it. You know what I mean? Like, you just walk in and you can just be, and you just decompress. Isn't it the best?
Yeah, I like it only with live music, because I'm not a beer drinker. I'm not a shot doer. So like, it has to have live music for me to go to a dive bar. But I do like it. You know, another good place. Have you ever gone? I just started going to this place too, the Gratiot Pub. Like, they have these open mic nights, and they have like local jams. Those are fantastic. And I've blown by that Gratiot Pub hundreds of times over my life here on the east side, and never thought twice about it. But that has a good scene. I forget what night of the week it is, but definitely worth checking out.
And where on Gratiot is it?
It's kind of by the Target, like on the opposite side of the street, the west side of the street.
Oh, I think I've been there.
Yeah, have you? Probably.
Yeah, I think I was there pre-COVID, and yeah, another just cool.
Yeah.
Cool, just kind of a hole in the wall type of a place.
For sure.
Okay, so live music / dive bars, live music in dive bars.
Right.
What else? What are some other things? You mentioned festivals.
Yeah.
What are some festivals that you've been to before that have been most memorable, and then ones that you might be going to in the near future?
Well, I've discovered I don't like really big music festivals. I went to Lala last year, which was awesome. Yeah, I would say go. I hadn't been since Lala. Lala started here in Detroit, Pine Knob. I went in the 50 or 19 or 50s, in the 90s to my first Lollapalooza show here, and then it moved to Chicago. So that's the first time I'd been since it had been in Chicago, and I went to see Billie Eilish because I love her, and that was a great show. But I wouldn't go again. I wouldn't go to Lolla again. Too big for me. I like smaller festivals. So like Wonder Bus 2 years ago in Columbus, highly recommend. Depends on the lineup. But this year I'm going to Railbird, which is in Kentucky, the end of May, beginning of June. I want to see Chris Stapleton. I've never seen him yet, so I'm like stoked about seeing him.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
So good. And then I'm going to see the Black Pumas in Tennessee in April. There's a festival that I bought tickets to next month. So
can't say I've heard of them. What's their style, their genre?
Oh, it's like kind of, if you like the blues, you'd like their sound, like a lot of soul. It's good, great musicians, and just a good sound. Yeah, I like chill music.
Okay, so who are some of your favorite artists?
So my favorite artists are I love Dope Lemon. I saw him last before Lollapalooza, and then at Lollapalooza, one of my newest favorite bands. I like Yellow Days, and I like Black Pumas. I'm seeing Gary Clark Jr. next month.
Yeah. I remember when he first dropped.
He's great. Me too. I have never seen him yet, so I'll be seeing him next month.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it sounds you got quite the roster here to go to. When you went to Lolla back in the 90s, who was on that roster?
That was the Chili Peppers.
Oh,
it was great. Yeah, their first album.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I still think people in the 90s had the best music. I do. I like grunge and alternative rock, and it was a really good phase, really good decade.
It really was. I mean, yeah, nothing really. And what amazes me too about that genre of music and that style is, I mean, Nirvana just killed all things hair metal, all things 80s, and when they came out with that music video and Nevermind, it just, I mean, I don't think there's been that big of a shift like that overnight. Unlike, I think the only artist to really do that was the Beatles back in the early mid 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And for Nirvana to be able to do that, to change the narrative overnight and get people to switch out, big hair and pastel colors and bright colors for, flannel shirts and, what have you, and just amazing, just truly. And the songwriting and the we talked about passion, right? So the passion in it. I mean, you can see like the music through Kurt and Chris and Dave, like just flowed and seeped out, and the energy the energy was felt by the audience.
Yeah, it was just a great time. I mean, the list is like endless. The Pumpkins, the Chili Peppers. I mean, just all really excellent music. I mean, 89X was great. It's so sad to turn it on now and hear country.
I know,
just
right?
Isn't right. No.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird.
Bring back 89X.
Yes, please. I don't mind country. Well, okay, country I have a very love-hate relationship with, because there's country and then there's country. Like, so you mentioned Chris Stapleton. To me, he's what I think of what country should be. You know what I mean? Like,
me too.
Just that kind of grassroots, like raw, kind of honky-tonkish feel, like telling a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Just a guy up there with his guitar in a band and just being himself. Like bands like Florida Georgia Line or like Morgan Wallen, like that. Sorry, that bullshit. Like I cannot subscribe to that. I can't do it. Okay, so festivals and all that. What else do you enjoy doing? What are some other
Well, I think one of the things that I like the most that people are always surprised is I like to fly fish. I think fly fishing is...
Really?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I had an ex-boyfriend that introduced me to it, and I didn't think I'd like it. I was trying to be a good sport, like, yeah, I'll try it for you. But, but then I was like, this is fantastic. Once I learned to cast... I tell my girlfriends too, I'm like, if you like yoga, you will like fly fishing. And I don't like fishing.
That's quite the...
Generally. But fly fishing is its own thing. And it is one of the most peaceful sports ever. So that's like one of my like sports that people are always like, really?
Yeah, I mean, you got me.
Yeah.
I would not have pictured that at all.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
Good for you.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that for?
Well, I picked it up maybe 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, eight years going strong. Okay.
Yeah.
So 8 years is almost as long as we've been around. So yeah, starting in 2016. So it'll be July of this year. It'll be 8 years. So 8 years of fly fishing, 8 years of business.
Good job.
Oh, thank you. It's been quite the journey. Okay, and so then also for you, what are some of your like your personal and professional goals and achievements that you would like to accomplish for the year that is 2024?
Oh, for 2024. Well, 2024 is promising to be a busy year for me. I'm already busy. And I have, I work for the Blue Book, and I also starting to work for a little bit on the side, a startup that I really believe in. I think we've got a great product. I'm really excited about it. I really like the guy who started it and the company. So I'm excited about doing that on the side. I mean, with the Blue Book, one thing I like about it is it's really a good work-life balance. We work 9 to 4 Monday through Thursday, although my husband will say I work all the time, which is true because doing what I do, I'm always bumping into people who have a company in the Blue Book or in a restaurant or in a business that I do business with. So I'm never not, I'm always working. I feel like I work 7 days a week, night and day, because I'm always bumping into somebody that like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to you about that. Starting for this startup company, I'm kind of excited about that project because it won't require a lot of time, and it's going to be staying in my same territory, the East Side, which I already work with all these people. So I'm kind of excited. I'm not talking about it much until the contract is signed, but I'm excited about that opportunity and growth. And I'm excited about my 40s and then the next decade, my 50s. I feel like I had children young, Walter, and I got married really young at 21. And so I really spent my time working and being a mom. That was my most important thing. But I feel like my 40s and 50s is about making money, and that's what I want to do. And that's, you've kind of done everything else, right? I've had tons of fun. I've partied like a rock star. I mean, so this decade, I'm like, this is about making money, and I've never really felt like that before. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm a dragon, so this is my year. I mean, this is supposed to be a very productive, lucrative period for me. Starting from 2008, we were under it wasn't good feng shui for the dragon, but now the dragon is in a phase of good fortune, and I'm riding that.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, I think you deserve it, and I mean, would never guess you were in your 40s. I would have thought you were like in like your late 30s.
Oh, you're so sweet.
So whatever it is you're doing, keep doing it. Okay, great, and I think that's important to kind of have that. Have that the balance, right? You have that balance of work and personal downtime, because in both of our industries, it's so easy to get wrapped up into like, okay, I got to do this thing next. Now I got to do this. I think a lot of times, I think especially because we live in this hustle culture now, it's almost expected for you to like, okay, if you're not doing something all the time, then what are you doing? Like, what are you contributing to society? And I say, the hustle culture, I feel like has kind of been a little bit of a detriment for individuals like us, because where do we find that downtime? And I think it's important to be able to just say, okay, on this day and between the hours of this and here, I'm not looking at emails. I might even just turn off my phone in general. And whether it's, just kicking back on the couch and playing video games, or like playing shows or gigs, or, for you, maybe it's fly fishing and going to local shows, whatever the case may be, like, you got to have that downtime. You got to have that reset. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you good about that, Walter? Do you take time off and actually not work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I always say to people, like, unless we've scheduled something in advance, that's either on a Saturday or even a Sunday. Like, if it's not, like, if you're not in the hospital, like,
right.
Don't bother me.
Right.
Like, and I don't mean that to be like, whatever. It's just, in the past, especially starting up, like in running your own show and running your own business, like, yeah, you're in the beginning, like you kind of have to be on call 24/7.
Right.
But now that there's been a period where now I can be more selective. I can establish those boundaries more now. I feel like it's so important, and it's so important for your health, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you've paid your dues.
I have, God damn it.
Yeah.
And so have you. So have you. Okay, well, real quickly before we log off here and conclude our show here, how can people reach out to you or reach out to the Little Blue Book if they have any questions, whether it's placing an ad or just questions in general about the publication? Is there a website? Is there a phone number, email? Social media? Now is the time to plug all of the things so that people can reach out to you and Little Blue Book Shores Magazine.
Thanks for asking, Walter. Definitely, we'd ask you to follow us on our Facebook page, The Shores Magazine. That's a great way to reach out to us and engage with us. Or you can reach me at Rebecca, REBECCA at Towar, TOWAR.com. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And we'd love to see you in the Shores.
Well, perfect. And Rebecca, I had a really nice chat with you.
So nice.
I know we've ran into each other and we kind of like chatted here and there, but like to really be able to kind of sit down with you and like kind of have this type of conversation, I don't know, I enjoyed it. I hope you did.
Me too, yeah. And what I like about you, Walter, and the one thing, like, just, we meet a lot of people doing what we do, but you are a positive person. You have a positive energy. You have a happy energy, and that's like what I like, and my cohort Jessica liked, and she's the same kind of person, and I kind of always identified with you because of your like energy and positiveness. Like, it is nice.
It's not
to be
like
around.
this all the time, I promise. But thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jessica, how is she doing?
She's doing great. She's like, we're still really good friends. We talk and communicate weekly. And she's working for a company, and she has a marketing degree. So where I'm a salesperson, she really focuses on the technical side of marketing. And so she's working with this new company, a medical company, and she's really happy. So I'm happy for her too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Jessica, if you're out there and you're watching, I would love to have you on my show, because picking the brain and kind of doing a compare and contrast of having the degree in marketing versus someone in marketing that's didn't necessarily get the degree in it, but kind of went through it in a non-textbook format. So that would be an interesting conversation. And you're just cool people. So yeah. I just love chatting with you in general. Well, Rebecca, this has been I've enjoyed our conversation and our time here today, and I would love to have you back on the program at some point. Down the road here in the not so distant future. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, WA Hooper Marketing. Doesn't cost you a thing, and it gets our metrics up. And hey, listen, if you click on that bell and that notification, you'll be updated and notified of when we post any and all updates, whether it's new episodes, shorts, clips, all the things here on our channel. So like and subscribe to the channel, and I have been sitting here and chatting with Rebecca Reyes of the Little Blue Book and Shores magazine in Grosse Pointe Woods, here from the Knot co-working space in Grosse Pointe Park. And thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.